Welcome to the Stand With Meg Show, defending parents' rights, protecting children, giving a voice to the voiceless. I'm your host, Meg, a mother, a survivor, an advocate fighting to expose the truth about family courts and to empower parents everywhere. Today, we're joined by someone who doesn't just talk about corruption, he digs it up and throws it into the light. Richard Luthmann is a former attorney turned investigative journalist who earned a reputation for diving headfirst into the danger others run from. From exposing violent abuse to uncovering RICO-level court fraud, Richard's reporting doesn't pull punches. He calls family court what it is, a money machine cloaked in secrecy, silencing those who dare to speak out. His mission: hold power to account, protect the First Amendment, and stand up for every family the system has chewed up and left behind. Well, hello, let's introduce you. Welcome! Round of applause. Sorry, I'm a dork, I know. How are you today?
Doing well. I'm doing well. I'm feeling good. You know, I'm in the middle of a bunch of stories, big stuff this week, and I'm just always going through a lot of different things journalistically. But how are you doing, Nick?
I am well. It's cooler here, which is nice. But we have a lot of shows to kick out, and I'm super excited that you're here. So you ready for my questions? Let's go. Oh, I will let you know on my shows I understand what you're saying, but I want people to understand what you're saying. So I might stop you and say, what does that mean? Okay. So I just want to tell you that. So, all right. So you were once practicing attorney, correct?
Yes.
And then, so what made you leave? How long were you attorney? And then what made you become an investigative journalist?
So it's a long story, but it's a political story. It starts, and I've written about it, my backstory on several of my websites. That's the place to go if you want to find out about that is New York News Press at nynewspress.com. And I have a story there called The Most Dangerous Man in America. And I was at one time a lawyer in New York City, in Staten Island, and I was the state law chair for the New York State Reform Party. So it was a big-time New York State political party. We had a ballot line and everything. And I was the victim of a political, what we like to say, a political maloik. They came and got me, and what I call it is proto-weaponization of justice. The New York State Democrats basically got together because a couple of people really didn't like me. One being a district attorney named Michael McMahon in Richmond County, another woman named Hillary Clinton after the 2016 campaign with Donald Trump. Joe Crowley was the former majority leader and a Queens party leader and congressman, and a few others, the Jerry Kassar, the Conservative Party leader. Well, they came and they kind of found a trap door for me. They created trumped up charges, and I actually spent 4 years in federal prison.
What?
Yes.
Whoa, no.
Yeah.
You felon.
I am. I'm a terrible. Just like the president, I'm a terrible person. Right?
For what? Exactly.
Well, basically, they brought federal charges against me that were preposterous, but I'm still fighting those. I did my time, but I'm still trying to get some type of relief. Because it was weaponized justice. It was all because I helped out President Trump in 2016. I was related to a lot of people in his circle and doing things as an attorney, but also as a political figure. So it was weaponized justice. They said that I was ripping off the Chinese. They said that I was helping a scrap metal scam that ripped off the Chinese. Half the people I talked to say that I should get a Medal of Honor for it. So
Kind of reminds me of when they stormed into the Capitol and all those people got arrested for being invited in. Those people are like falsely, kind of like that, right?
It was a lot of January 6th. I talked to a lot of January 6th people. They have pardons. I'm working on mine with Ed Martin, who's the pardon attorney for President Trump. And he's also the DOJ's weaponization, like the weaponization czar, basically.
Mm-hmm.
A working group called Weaponization of Justice and Lawfare, and he's in charge of that. And so I've been talking to him about several different things, including the pardon, and his offices, getting his materials to his offices. So we'll see. That was I did 4 years in federal prison because of that. But then during that time, I had a state case too, and the state case against me was one of the people I mentioned, McMahon, brought a case because I made fake Facebook profiles about politicians. So they made a federal or a state case, a 3-year felony case against me, cost them millions of dollars, and it's not even a valid case. I'm still fighting that one too. So it was a real First Amendment stuff. So that's my whole life. I ended up getting out of jail in 2021. And right after COVID, and it was terrible and miserable in prison because imagine how bad it was on the outside with COVID. And
Oh,
how bad it must have been on the inside.
yeah.
The only solace is I didn't miss much because most people didn't miss much for that year in change. But
That's true. That's a positive thing to think about.
the way to look at it, right? But I get out. I said, "What can I do with myself? I know the courts. I know how to write. I'm a lawyer. I was not just a lawyer. I was the law chair of the Reform Party. I was a top New York lawyer. And I said to myself, man, I'm gonna do some journalism. I think that's the place for me. They can't stop you. There's no licensure for journalism. The First Amendment is the only licensure you need.
Right.
And so I hooked up with a really renowned publisher and writer named Frank Parlato. And Frank Parlato writes a lot about the family courts, and he writes a lot about other things too, about cults and about different types of injustices.
Okay, so wait a second. We went from you're in federal court into now you're writing. I want you to really. I'm trying to get people to like hook. I'm a hooker. Hook, right? You are a journalist. You have not been affected by family court, right? You've just been affected by courts in general, or do you have children?
I was on the other side. I know how these courts work. I was a political guy. I made judges.
Okay, that's exactly what I
work from soup to nuts.
So you are here today because you are a journalist, but you are exposing how the machine is going.
Yeah, I know exactly how it works. Okay. And frankly, that was me. I was in a Reform Party. They didn't like me in New York very much.
Yeah, but no.
I was this way before. Right. I wouldn't take their bribes. I wouldn't, get in the smoke-filled rooms and cut dirty deals. I was not that guy. And they had to make me the bad guy in order to keep their corruption train going. Right. So I am here, and I've committed myself to exposing corruption throughout the country. And the big place that I think right now, the civil rights issue of our time, is children and family courts. I think that's what it is. Right. And so I've been doing this in earnest since I got out, since 2021. For the last 4 years, this is my 5th year doing just journalism, investigative journalism, family courts, and other things as well. But that's the core of what I do.
That's awesome. And that's what I want to educate people on, because you're really following the RICO cases. And this is one thing I love about you is you're watching them, you're interviewing them, you're exposing them, you're putting them on, the internet with, with your articles and Facebook. And so he's really exposing. So for the viewers, Richard, can you explain what a RICO is so that people understand?
I can explain it. If you've ever seen Goodfellas, if you ever seen The Godfather, if you ever seen Casino, any of these mob movies, they made a big law. Congress made a big law back in the 50s called the Organized Control Act. Basically, it was the RICO Act, the Racketeer Influenced Corrupt Organization. And so they said that,
wait, what was the act again?
It was Racketeer Influenced Corrupt Organization.
What does racketeer mean? Sorry, you're going to hate me after this. You're going to hate me.
Organized Crime Control Act. So it was
organized crime
in America. And so they control the organized crime. And they developed this thing called the Racketeer Influenced Corrupt Organization, RICO for short. And what that meant was, picture back in the day, in the 50s, you would have, let's say the Italian mob ran something. What would they have? They would have a butcher shop, and they'd have a liquor store, and they'd have a bar, and they'd have a strip club. And those are all legal businesses. And throughout all those businesses, they would run gambling, they would do bookmaking, and they would run brothels and women and all that, and they would do all sorts of all the illegal stuff on the outside. But it was kind of inside the organization. It was there were legitimate and illegitimate parts, but it was a corrupt organization. And so they made this RICO statute, and they applied it finally to the corrupt organizations, to the organized crime. Well, there's a civil aspect of it. It's not a criminal aspect, like a prosecutor or a United States attorney will take like John Gotti, and prosecute him.
I love the analogy, by the way. Way to go. That's the best I've heard. So good job.
So you get John Gotti and you go, okay, we got John Gotti. You're corrupt. But there's also a civil version, meaning that if I'm an aggrieved person or I'm in a group of aggrieved persons, just regular people, I can go to the federal court and say to the federal court, there's a RICO organization here. They have harmed me. I want to sue them, and I want to get relief. Now, there's very, very stringent purposes that you have to do. There's very stringent elements that you have to meet. And so there's several different people that are trying this RICO all around the country. One is Matt Grant, who's the St. Louis attorney. Another is Rabbi Jacob Belinsky. And they're trying to show that the family courts are really a corrupt organization.
Meaning, like you said, they have it's the GAL, which is the guardian ad litem, to the lawyers, to the judge. It's like what you said with the butcher shop to this, I can't remember what you said on
butcher or
the restaurant, the Italian
restaurant, everything.
Yeah, so that is what we are in. This is what we are trying to stop and tell them, no, you cannot be doing this because they're doing this in the same way that they did back in the day with that. So thank you.
Hard for you to say that, oh, that butcher shop, that restaurant, that taxi cab company, that it by itself is wrong. The same way you get the guardian ad litem, the attorney for the children, the judge, the court evaluator, all the appointed people, to say that one person is doing anything wrong. But when you look behind the scenes, the acting in concert, there's all sorts of stuff in the shadows that's happening.
Right.
And so that's the issue with the RICO. Now, RICO needs predicate acts. And so, predicate acts need to be, crimes. And crimes are the use of, for not necessarily for criminal purposes, but for fraudulent or dishonest purposes, the use of the wires of the United States, the mails of the United States. So to get your RICO predicate, all you need to have them is using the phone lines, using the mails, using email, and engaging in activity. But the big activity that a lot of them engage in, and a lot of people say this, a lot of politicians, a lot of elected officials, a lot of court reformers, extortion. Yep. Right? In many ways, people see family court as a legalized form of extortion. They bring you into a place, they say, you must do X, Y, and Z, or else you will never see your children ever again. Mm-hmm. That's not state-sanctioned extortion. I have no idea what is. I have no idea what is. And so that's the underlying kernel of these RICO claims, is that there's extortion going on a grand level by the court against regular members of the public. Okay. Now, the secondary portion of these lawsuits is also another issue which should be important to everybody in our country. That's civil rights. It's a civil rights issue. And so the guy who says this best is an Arizona state senator named Mark Finchem. He's doing a big, exploratory ad hoc committee for family court.
Oh, Mark Finchem and Arizona.
And Arizona, Rachel Castro.
Yes, guys. Yeah. So he's the guy that you guys see all over social media that's speaking and actually bringing this truth to light. And then who is the Congress or the House of Representatives that's with him as well?
Rachel Castro.
Rachel Castro. Okay, so those two you guys are seeing, and everyone's like, "Oh, please come, please come." So those are the two you see talking, and then he opens up the platform for other parents to tell their stories. And so these are the two people he's talking about. I just want everyone to know. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So Senator Finchem basically said it better than anybody I've ever heard say. It's like, look, you walk into the court. There are only two jobs that a court has to do. They have to make a determination about the property, and they have to make a determination about the custody. Not there to fix people. We're not there to have an appointed person, appoint another appointed person, and a guardian ad litem of this, and a litigation control that, and a coordinator of that. No. You got to go in there. You get in, you make your determinations, and you go.
Right.
That's it.
Well, and that's exactly what I tell people right now. It depends on who your attorney is. If you pick this attorney and they're connected to all those others, your case is already done. There's no point even going to trial because no matter what evidence you put in, they don't care because it's already decided.
So that's part of the issue. Now, you have an issue, and what Senator Finchem and Rep. Cashel, also Senator Tammy Nichols up in Idaho, they're doing the same type of thing. They're doing it in North Dakota. They're doing it in other states as well. They want to get to the bottom of this. Why can you go to this court and it becomes a feeding fest, a feeding frenzy of court-appointed people? And you get people that are put on the brink of bankruptcy, many who go into bankruptcy. They lose everything because they go to this court. And so that's part of the issue. What's gone wrong with America? I talk about this a lot. I talk about what happened in divorce law and when it became an industry. They say the divorce industrial complex. But if you remember, the watershed point is Kramer versus Kramer. That's the movie from the 80s. And that's when divorce was divorce. And it was a coastal thing at that point. It was New York and LA and everything else. But after Kramer versus Kramer, it became a business because you got a lot of lawyers out there and you have a lot that aren't very talented whatsoever. But
Oh, yeah.
family is a place that they can all make a living. They can eat by a living, going into family court and just chewing up people's assets. And a lot of times it's not just people's personal assets, it's also government money. And Title 4D, Title 4E, Violence Against Women Act funding that the federal government gives to the states. Well, the state courts, the family courts use that to pad their budgets and pay all their people, pay all the guardian ad litem and all these coordinators and
And
everything
this
else.
also goes for just CPS because there's an uproar finally of parents have lost their children because they took them to the hospital. CPS is involved in this as well, correct?
CPS is a major culprit. You know, that's the problem. The funding that's there, and a lot of times they come on, you walk into family court, you should be able to get in and get out with those two determinations, property and custody, not be a total loser for the next decade. And that's what happens. The family courts want to make you a total loser. Okay. These people want to say that you're broken and you need to get fixed. And they're the ones to fix you. And they want to make you to pay or the government to pay or somebody to pay to fix you and your kids and your family and this and that. Well, no, that's not what it's like. And the fact of the matter is, in some cases, the vast majority, you don't need that. You just need the determination of property and custody. In some cases, you do find people that are broken. That's still not the province of the court. The case should be over and get sent to somebody else and let them go either privately or if they're qualified for public assistance, do it that way, but not under the auspices of the court. It doesn't make sense, but it does make sense when you understand what their business model is. Their business model is fraud, corruption, multiplication of proceedings, and turning of fees. That's what they do. That's all it is. That's what this game is. It's a game. They're trying to game people. So that's
what would you say why the media is so silent on this subject?
Well,
you can't get anyone to talk about it.
Mike Volpe said
only if someone goes unalived do they talk about it.
Mike Volpe said it before. He said one of the bigger reasons is that this is family court issue is uniparty. It's bipartisan. There's no.
What does bipartisan mean?
You can't put one person against the other on an issue because it affects everybody. You have the most staunchly pro-Trump people on one side. You have the most staunchly anti-Trump people on the other. They still get affected by family court the same way.
Exactly.
You have somebody who's woke and supported Kamala, and you get somebody who's a lifelong Republican. They're still going to be put through a feeding trough. They are looked at like cattle. So you cannot use the family court stories to polarize the population. In fact, all you can use the family court to do is to outrage the population. If the population became outraged, they realize who's in charge of this family court anyway, and they realized it was the political parties and the special interests. Okay, so that's one big issue why this doesn't go, doesn't grab legs. And so the fact of the matter is, you have entrenched interests that really don't want anything to change. Mm-hmm. The biggest one, I think, is the trial lawyers lobby. Right, the trial lawyers pay millions and billions of dollars annually to state legislatures, to the national, the Congress, to make sure that there's either legislation they want or no legislation against what they want.
Right.
They want to create more times to ring the register for lawyers. That's what their entire existence is based upon. We want to have more money for lawyers. We want to get more litigation, more acrimony, more fights, more battles. They love it because the lawyers are the only ones that make the money. So that's
what we're literally fighting the attorneys, and people don't realize how many legislators are lawyers.
Yeah, the vast majority are. The vast majority are lawyers. Most of the best ones aren't lawyers. Most of the best ones are either doctors or business people. But yes, and that's the problem is that they're and then it's such a powerful lobby too. If you do something wrong to the trial lawyers, a lot of people camping outside your office. Mm-hmm. And doing all sorts of trouble. So that's one issue. But the real issue, you said the media. The media is another issue because the media is kind of tied into this game. And where's the you say to yourself, and I had this debate with Volpe. He's like, well, family court's really local issues, and it's not.
Oh, I know.
National. But I go like this to him. I said, listen, turn on Dateline and look at what they do in Dateline. San Diego, California, Akron, Ohio, Boston, Massachusetts, Orlando, Florida, Little Rock, Arkansas. They go all around the country. Each hour of Dateline you watch is a case from a certain place, right? It's not like they pull it from the same place. They can do the same with family court. And some of the family court stories are much more egregious than the Dateline stories that you see.
Oh, absolutely.
The serial killer stories, pale in comparison to some of the stuff that's been happening in the courts. So that's a red herring. I think that's BS in plain English. That it's not a national. Of course, it's a national issue because it could happen to you. It can. That's the point. People, and you're a media person. People in media want to watch it if they can identify. Well, this is the total identifier. This can happen to you. This can happen to your family. This can happen.
Having a child right now in the United States, you do not have any rights to them.
That's right. It's a scary situation. And then you talk about all the other issues involved. They don't want to wade into those waters, right? Mm-hmm. The big media people out there, the mainstream media is almost like willfully blind. They have blindfolds on, right? Mm-hmm. They have blindfolds to this family court stuff. Once in a while, they'll throw a story out there, but it's very plain vanilla. It doesn't do any investigative rigor. It's not like something you're going to see. Okay, so think about one of the biggest changes that television ever did. Remember, we had Chris Hansen and To Catch a Predator. That single-handedly changed how we dealt with child predatory laws, child pedophilia, and that type of stuff. That created all sorts of change all through the 50 states, all through nationally, everything else. And it was done through the medium of television. It was done all around the country in different places, exploiting places that didn't even have these laws. They would say, the state of Mississippi, we would be able to arrest them, but there's no law in place. And then Mississippi would change the law. If we have that with family court, if we have that same type of investigative vigor to show what was happening behind the scenes in family court, there would be a reckoning. It would be a total watershed moment.
Right. So
capability is there, the will is not there, and we have to ask ourselves why.
Why?
And the why is a complicated question, but it's not complicated. It's corruption. The media's in on it. Okay, and a lot of these reporters, and that's the term we've used, journalistic treason. To a certain extent, they're going to claim that they're searching for the truth, but they're leaving this 800-pound gorilla in the center of the room and tiptoeing around it.
Right. Well, and people, they want us broke too, like not only emotionally because our children, but financially because they get to then be, rich, wealthy, rich. And then we're down here, way down here. And we keep going down because we're trying to fight for our kids. And that's what people don't realize. It's not free. It's not free. It's not correct. It's not right. And you're playing a chess game pretty much. Yeah. And until people realize that, even if you're not affected by family courts or CPS, it can happen at any second of your life. So real quick, Richard, I want you to go on about the RICO. So I have a friend, actually, I just texted her. I wanted you to talk to her. She has a RICO in Kansas. And she's one of my friends and so proud of her. She's learned her law very well. But she was watching the one in St. Louis and hers, and everyone's at hold. Why is it everything's at hold with these RICOs?
Not that it's at hold. It's tough. If you watch the interview I did with Matt Grant, the St. Louis lawyers filed in Missouri, you have to understand that there's some very, very important law that's out there that you have to get around.
Right.
Okay? And I'll do it as simply as I can. But there's two doctrines called the Younger Extension Doctrine and the Rockefeller Doctrine. Those all talk about Supreme Court cases.
Yep, I know those.
United States Supreme Court cases. And in general, what they say is the province of family court, of the children and families, is a state issue. Mm-hmm. So the state is primarily going to be dealing with this stuff. So you need to have a really good reason to knock on the door of the federal court to say, we want you to rule on this. Because we're going to abstain from ruling on things that are generally the powers of the states. The state criminal law, the state family law, the state real property, the real estate law. There are things that the states have their rights to do, their legislatures can do. And federalism, the federal constitution says we're going to leave the states alone to do it.
Right.
And so you need to cross that threshold. And so just coming in and saying, this judge was mean to us, this judge was mean to everybody, this judge has terrible opinions.
Concrete evidence, yes.
You have to get past the Younger Extension Doctrine. You have to get past the Rockefeller Doctrine. You have to be able to say that, look, and Matt Grant's doing it, Jacob Linsky, the rabbi's doing it, other people are doing it around the country and saying, look, the system itself is corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
I try to get relief, due process from these people. They're the ones that are judging, my claims. The same people that are committing the crimes. So this becomes not only a civil rights issue about due process, it becomes a corrupt organization issue. And the stuff that you're saying that the states can sort things out for themselves does not apply here, because we can show you the corruption.
Right.
These are the corrupt actors.
Right.
These are the people that I already went to and asked for help, and they're the ones that have done all this, and this. Right. You have to show stuff that's outside of the court. You cannot show the four corners of a court opinion. You can show somebody they made a bad decision. That's not enough. Okay. Right. You have to show real systemic corruption. Matt has that guardian ad litem from St. Louis going up. Oh, this could take down the courts. That's the type of stuff you need. You need people. You need emails, extraneous emails. You need people taking bribes. We have one up in Illinois. It's the Girard case. Ken Girard. They have the judges. One of the lawyers bragging about bribing the judges. So the guy goes around the golf course. They talk about how he's got everybody in his pocket.
Right. I always try to explain to my viewers that it's like a hospital. You know, when you have a hospital and you have a patient, let's say you're sick, Richard, and you are acting crazy, like you're drama. Well, the nurses are telling the doctors telling the psychiatrist, the doctors, everyone talks about you. It's the same thing. They all form an opinion off of one nurse that treats you. Same thing with family court. So that's exactly it. They're doing this and people don't understand. And I'm so excited the more and more RICOs I hear. Now I have a question. In your opinion, because I have 2 federal lawsuits in as well that I wrote, and they're going. One kind of not. But do you believe, in your opinion, that the federal court judges are still tied to the state judges? Meaning,
yeah, they're all political people, and that's part
they
of the
know
issue.
each other, right? They all probably talk.
Yeah, they're connected. I don't think they talk per se like when we think. They pick up the phone and call each other. But there's this belief that it's almost like a camaraderie. It's almost like an institution. There's an institutional integrity. They cover each other. It's kind of like the people that if you all go to the same schools and you all belong to the same country clubs and you all do the same social activities, there's going to be a bit of a connection there. So that it's kind of that type of thing, And so that's the issue. You go to court and you're in court. Court is slow. Court is expensive. Court is time consuming. Okay, that's what court is, and so it's not user friendly and
it's not for children. So, for instance, yesterday I finally got rights to finally see my son with supervised visits. I signed up, I paid for it, and then I get an email right back right away. We are not going to offer you services. That's it. Within 5 minutes of me submitting my application and paying, because they don't like that I'm loud, probably, or everyone's talking, right? But here's my issue there, Richard. If I file another motion to ask the judge, can I go to another supervised visit? In our state, they have 120 days to respond back to that motion.
Yeah.
120 days where a child has to sit and wait? Like, what?
Well, yeah, you're right. And that's the thing. And you understand our constitutional structure? The courts are just but one of our natural law remedies. The most important one, I think, because it's in the First Amendment, is the speech. Right, and is the community getting together and talking, and the power of the media. I hate to say the mob, but in a certain sense, it's the sentiment of the people. That's probably the most important power that we have, and the press is tied directly to that. And so it will take a lot less than 120 days for a guy like Frank Parlato or a guy like Michael Volpe or a guy like Richard Luthmann to get to the bottom of your situation with the number of vendors that they use and everything else, and get that into a place where millions of people can see it, then the courts don't like that. And the problem is, if we were in a place where the family courts judges knew that and had to be afraid that the eye of vigilance, that the public eye and public sentiment was on them, then that would be a very different story about the outcomes in these cases. I had an argument with a friend of mine who is he's a political guy, and he's pretty connected, and his belief is that the best way with family court is to do it as quickly and as quietly as possible. And I said to him, and when you went in, did you have a lawyer? Oh, the best. I had the best lawyer. Oh, okay. And so you had connections with the, oh, yeah, the judge knew and this. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, if you're lined up that way, then that, of course, is your best goal. If you play quietly because you already got it lined up, you already bought
it's like your A-team football team for football, right? It's your A-team. Yeah.
That's right. You're showing up like the Dallas Cowboys and you're playing a high school. That's what it's coming down to. So you have a lot of situations where parents don't have the connections, don't have the money, and that's the issue. And in most cases, it shouldn't be the person who has the most resources, the person who's the most psychotic, the person that has the most connections is the one who can win. Right. And the whole problem with the courts is, like I said before, get back to the trial lawyers, the demonization aspect. Okay.
Okay. Wow. Explain that to me.
So I'm going to the court. Let's say we're getting divorced, me and you.
Okay.
First thing, you're the devil. She's the devil. Back in 2022, she was drinking vodka, and then she went to pick up her kids from school.
You all you did was sleep around, and you were with someone else, and you always had this girlfriend, and I saw your phone.
And you saw my phone, and that's fine, but you did it with the kids. It's all your fault. It's all your fault.
You made me have all these kids, and you don't support them.
But you understand, it'll go back and forth. The lawyers will do it lawyerly.
That was the best. Right there. Can I give you
and the papers are that high, right? They're that thick.
Right.
You're paid by the pound with the lawyers. And that's what it becomes, the acrimony, the fight. I just saw a case, and I'm not going to name the name because I may cover it. It's a 2012 consent order, okay? They agreed by consent in 2012 to divorce, right? They've still been in court ever since. It's 2025. They've been basically, cut to the bone. That's just it. The lawyers so weak. We didn't get enough out of these people. They agreed to divorce. Let's get them in custody. Let's get them in this. Let's get them in that. Modification, contempt. For 12 years after the quote unquote divorce happened. I've been
Richard, I don't know if you know this, but I've been in court since 2012.
Yeah, but you're the same type of situation.
I have a divorce decree. It's 30 pages long. The judge, I had 6 days of court, $350,000 later. And my ex took me to court after that to another state. And that state won't look at my divorce decree. So what's the even point of a divorce decree right now? If no one honors it.
That's the issue. And if there was a streamlined system where you knew you could get a quick determination on the property and on the custody, then it would be a good thing. Now, I get into a lot of trouble with advocates talking about this, but my belief, and this is my opinion, everybody has a lot of opinions. Volpe disagrees with me, other people disagree with me. I like 50-50 custody presumption as an adjudicative rule.
What does adjudicative rule mean?
I tell you, it's not a substantive policy of the state. It's not, but it's an adjudicative rule, meaning that if there's a substantive policy, the substantive policy would be that everybody has to do 50-50. That's that's the policy of our state, is that it's shared parenting. No, that's not the policy I'm looking for. I'm looking for what's called an adjudicative rule of 50-50. What does that mean? Mm-hmm. That means when you walk into the courtroom, you have a strong presumption that both parents have to share 50-50 with the kids. Okay, and you need to show something that's terribly outlandish to basically dispossess a parent and children of the natural law right to be a parent. Okay, because that's what my belief is that parents and children have a natural law right to be parents and children. That's just what it is. It doesn't come from a piece of paper or a judge, right? If I believe it comes from God. And so the situation is, that is the fairest situation, is that you walk in and we respect the rights of both sides, and the acrimony crap gets thrown out the window because there's only a very small category of things that could disqualify somebody from having a right or a 50-50 right to share in their child's life.
No, and I will tell you, a lot of people probably disagree with me on that as well. In my situation, when my ex left me when I was pregnant with twins and we were going through divorce, I had newborn twins, a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 5-year-old. And then my ex decided to go just date around, have fun, go on vacations, and leave me with a 5. And so at that point, he wasn't ready to he couldn't take care of 4 kids in diapers. He had to have a nanny all the time with him if he needed help. I didn't. I did everything by myself. And so my situation, I believed it, and he worked all the time. So it had been the kids would have been, with nannies. So in my situation, the judge gave me 80%, not because I didn't want them to be with their father, was because it wasn't the right time because their kids were younger, right? But then as the kids got older, and by the way, I always let the kids go to their dads anytime they wanted to. If he wanted to take one of our sons to Detroit to a car show, go for it, take him. It didn't bother me if it was on my time or his time, whatever. And then when they got older, they're 10 and up, he moved close, he's not an hour away. Yes. And I gave him 50-50. And so that to me, it just, you have to also like value. Huh?
What you said there, Meg, was the judge gave me 80%. Who is the judge to give anybody 80%? Everyone has a right to their kids. Okay, that's the point that I'm trying to make here is that, frankly, yes, if you have a shared right, a 50-50 right to your kid, meaning that you have the same rights that the other spouse has.
Yeah. See, we had all that. Yes.
And then if the arrangement is the kids are with you 80% of the time, or that the overnights that they spend with you are far greater than the overnights they spend with the other one, that's fine. But
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
The adjudicate rule should be shared parenting.
Yes.
50-50 shared parenting. Doesn't need to be substantive, like I said, 50-50. It doesn't have to be 180, 183 days each. That's no. But it has to be 50-50 in the sense that there's a right to be a parent and a right for a child to have it. And that is, and the states that don't have that are the states that are the horror show. New York and Illinois and California and Virginia.
So they have divorces that where like one parent makes more of the decisions and the other parent doesn't have a right to?
They have, but you have to fight it over. And those are the courts where you have these ex parte temporary orders that go on for years and years and years. Where one
like mine
runs in, the party with the money runs into the judge and says, "This one did that." So the lawyers have hijacked the system. So that's a big problem. That's one of my biggest gripes in how to fix the system. Not a substantive rule that it's got to be 50-50 and even. No, you don't even, but you have a 50-50 adjudicate rule that they obviously both sides have shared parenting rights.
Right.
And so that's the point. And it stops the acrimony. No matter what you say, unless you can prove that this person was convicted of pedophilia, he's not going to lose his parental rights. There has to be so high of a bar. And so people have to just understand that no matter what lawyers tricks you try to throw at something, how much money you try to throw at it, that it's a God-given right to be a parent and a child, to have that relationship. There's nothing that could stand in the way. The government should be able to stand in the way unless it's the most, extreme of circumstances. That's my belief.
Well, and you know what? I will tell you, and my story, that's what happened. My kids, I dropped them off to school, had a wonderful weekend, wonderful time. My son was like, "Are you going to come to my basketball game and take off work?" Yeah. And then emergency hearing, they said the nastiest things about me in the hearing, never even questioned me. And then I didn't even have the chance to talk to my children for 11 months.
There you go.
11 months. 5 children gone. So it's a serious problem. And I'm stuck in temporary land now. So 18 months now. And I can't get in front. I can't get a trial. I can't get a trial. They canceled my trial because I didn't pay $13,000 in GAL fees. I didn't even know I was supposed to pay.
And here's the kicker. What do? It's a strategy. So they run in, they do the ex parte order where you're not even there. You don't have to say anything. And then they don't hold the hearing. And then they delay it. And then it's after a year, right? And so then the other side's lawyer says, "Oh, but judge, this is now the status quo.
Yep.
The temporary order has been in place for over a year.
The kids are used to it.
Status quo.
We don't want to uproot the kids.
They're already in school. They're already doing this. They're already doing that.
Right. That was going to really upset them, and it's funny because I know my children are gone. I know they'll be back. They live 4 minutes from me, and that's the thing. And I just have to thank goodness they're older and I got 10 solid years with them. A wonderful time with just me and my 5. I didn't have, or just us, but they're gone until they're an adult and they realize, and I hope they do. I was talking to Marianne yesterday and her kids never realized. And she hasn't had her kids back. And it's so sad how they are erasing parents, erasing families, and creating mental illnesses for these children. And not just mental illnesses, emotional issues, right? As they get older, how are they going to learn to trust someone that's not going to leave them, right? Anyway, we can go a whole down that bottom hole. We should not go there.
I'll leave the bookend now. So we have we have a huge amount of social science data that shows that families that have both parents and both in the children's lives have better outcomes.
Amen.
Right? And we have both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats, will say it's a lot better. That it's a problem when you have single parent household. Why would a court put that in place on purpose? That I just don't understand how that's not that's outside of common sense for me. And unless there's really an extreme circumstance like I described before, both parents should be in the child's life, and both parents have a right to be a parent. It's a fundamental natural law right, and that's something we have to get back to with these courts. We have to take away this corrupt system and get back to basics.
Amen with that. Well, where can people follow you, Richard, and find you on all platforms? Can you get that for me?
Yeah, I'm all over the place, but I have a Substack, which is basically, if you'd like to read good articles on this stuff, it's Luthmann, Luthmann.substack.com. And I have several different outlets, websites. One is a New York-based nynewspress.com. Also, Florida-based is flgulfnews.com. And the family court site is thefamilycourtcircus.com.
I love that.
If you wanted to get me, I have a link tree. It's R. Luthmann. So R and my.
I'll put that in the comments so people know where to go.
That has all my stuff. I'm on like every social media.
You're like on everything.
I'm on everything. I actually listen. I like Rumble though, because YouTube has been a real pain to me, because I put stuff up about family courts and I like trying to get everything taken down. So Rumble, all my videos stay up. But I'm on the YouTube too. I have my news dissemination site. And then, I have all social media. You name it. I'm on Truth. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and Threads and TikTok. I'm also on like Pinterest. People are like, what are you doing on Pinterest? Are you looking for new curtains? I'm like, no, I put everything up. I put it up everywhere.
I'm the same way. I'm on Pinterest too.
It is what it is.
I know. Well, I appreciate you so much for talking with me today. And I'm so excited to finally meet you. I've seen you all over, Richard this. And when I hear Richard Luthmann, I knew. So your name is out there. And I really appreciate you coming on. And thank you for your fight. And please keep us updated on all these RICOs. And I really appreciate how you dialed down and you gave the gangsta, to talk about the RICO. I love that. So
the modern day gangsters. They really are.
They are. I think that's a great thing. And I love that we got to a template about having children. You never answered my question, though. How many kids would we have together?
Yeah, there we go. Gonna figure that one out.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. We'll talk to you later.
Take care.